I landed in Bangkok with 2 suitcases and no real plan, just a quiet hope that maybe this place could give me something life in London never did. I had worked over 35 years in a factory, mostly on the packing line, and by the time I took early retirement at 63, my back and my spirit were both worn out. Back home, the days all blended together. My kids were grown. My marriage had ended 10 years earlier. I lived in a small flat in Croydon, and most of my time was spent watching telly or reading old war novels. I'd go for a pint every now and then, but it always felt like I was just waiting for something to happen, or maybe just waiting for it all to be over. So when I sold the flat and looked at my pension and savings, I thought, why not? I'd been watching videos about Thailand, reading forums, even joined a few Facebook groups. Everyone talked about the warm weather, the low cost of living, the smiles, the freedom. And then there's the miserable expats that commented on everything with a sense of disgust and superiority. It got me thinking, why would you react in such a miserable way while living in paradise? I ended up renting a 1-bedroom condo near Ladprow MRT. The place was clean, had a small balcony, and there was even a pool downstairs. For the first time in years, I actually looked forward to getting up in the morning. I'd walk to the 7-Eleven to get my morning coffee. I'd nod at the lady who learned my order after a week and just sit there, sweating, sipping, and watching Bangkok come alive. It was great to live in this part of town. There even was a huge mall within 5 minutes of walking. I started going to an expat bar a few nights a week, not the girly ones, just a little place where older guys gathered to drink and talk about football and visas. I met blokes from all over, Aussies, Canadians, a few Germans, and they all had their own reasons for being here. Divorce, retirement, burnout. We didn't talk much about the past. It was more about what we were doing now. Everyone warned me about women. They said, don't fall for it, mate. Keep it casual, keep it clean. I nodded, smiled, told them I wasn't looking for love, and at the time, I meant it. But even with the heat and the easy mornings, I felt something missing. You can only walk around parks and night markets by yourself for so long before you start wondering what life would look like with a partner. I kept reminding myself that I didn't move to Thailand for romance. I didn't move to chase some fantasy. I moved because I wanted to feel alive again. I wanted quiet days, warm food, a little peace. But sitting on my balcony one night, watching the city lights flicker through the smog, I started to wonder, what if life still had one more surprise left for me? A few months into living in Bangkok, I started thinking about the idea more and more. I had the time, I had the freedom, but I didn't have anyone to share it with. One night at the bar, a guy named Alan, retired plumber from Glasgow, asked if I'd tried online dating yet. I laughed it off at first, but later that night, I downloaded an app. I figured it couldn't hurt just to chat with someone, nothing serious, just a bit of company. It was not what I expected. I was swiping through a minefield. I had a hard time telling if they were really women, if you know what I mean. There were a lot of girls in their 20s calling me dear, handsome, and sending hearts before I even said hello. Some of them asked about my job or sent voice messages that felt too sweet to be real. I deleted the app the next week. But a month later, I tried again. And that's when I matched with Choi. Her photos were perfectly framed with her in the middle. Just her standing outside a little shop, one with red signs and wooden shelves. Another photo had her sitting cross-legged on a mat, cooking something in a big pot. Her message was short. Hello, Bob. I see you like nature. Me too. That was it. No hearts, no sweetie, just something normal. It felt like someone genuine was on the other end, and I couldn't stop smiling. We started chatting every evening. Her English wasn't perfect, but we managed. She told me she had a small food stall up north, near Udon Thani. She cooked noodles and rice dishes. Took care of her teenage daughter and her elderly mother. Her father had passed the year before, and since then, she had been supporting the household on her own. I admired that. She didn't ask for anything, no talk of needing money, just asked about my life in London, about my favourite foods, even asked if I missed the rain. After about 2 weeks, she said she'd like to visit Bangkok. She'd never been before. I offered to help pay for her bus fare, but she refused, said she could manage on her own. That made me like her even more and had me thinking that she is not like the other girls that the other expats warned me about. When I met her at Mo Chip bus station, I recognized her straight away. She wore a simple blue blouse and jeans, no makeup, just a shy smile. She looked tired from the trip, but didn't complain. I offered to take her for lunch and we sat in a little air-conditioned place nearby, sipping iced tea and talking like old friends. Over the next few days, we spent a lot of time together. She stayed in a small guest house nearby and never once asked to move in or borrow money. She laughed at how bad Thai was and taught me how to say things properly. For the first time in years, I felt a kind of joy and excitement I hadn't felt in years. After her visit, things moved quicker than I expected. Choi went back to Udon Thani, but we talked every day. Morning texts, voice notes at night. She'd send me photos of her food stall, her daughter studying, even her dog lying in the sun. I didn't feel like a tourist anymore. I felt like I had someone here. A few weeks later, she invited me to visit her hometown. I booked a flight and landed in Udon Thani, not knowing what to expect. She met me at the airport in the same blue blouse, said it was her favorite because I complimented her in it. Her home was about 40 minutes out of the city, in a small village surrounded by rice fields. The house was basic, made of cement with a tin roof, but it was clean and full of life. Her daughter, Na, was shy but polite. Her mother greeted me with a big smile and gave me cold water in a plastic cup. It certainly felt like the raw Thailand experience. It was amazing to see how the locals lived outside of the big cities. We ate on the floor that night. Sticky rice, grilled chicken, papaya salad. The fan buzzed in the background while Na showed me her school books. Choi looked proud. I was happy. Looking back now, I can see how quickly I was swept up in it all. I hadn't known them long, but they treated me as their own, and that felt great. The loneliness I'd felt in my London flat after my divorce didn't seem so far away anymore. When I asked Choi if she'd come live with me in Bangkok, her eyes lit up. She said she would love to, but she needed to make sure her mum and daughter were okay first. She didn't ask for anything, just said she'd figure out a way. So I offered her a little help. I said I'd cover the 8,000 baht a month she usually earned from the stall so she could stop working and spend time with me. She hesitated, but agreed. I told myself it was just part of building a life together. 8K a month wasn't too bad for having the opportunity to be together with my love. She moved into my condo a few weeks later. At first, everything felt perfect. We'd drink coffee together, take short trips, visit temples. She'd gently massage me when we watched TV and made fun of how I snored. I hadn't felt that relaxed in years. One evening, while we were having dinner at a restaurant with a beautiful view of Wat Arun, the sky glowing orange as the sun sets behind the temple, I looked at her and asked if she would marry me. I planned it 2 days prior to asking her. My life seemed perfect with her in Bangkok, so I thought why not? She looked surprised, then smiled the biggest smile I'd ever seen. She said yes and hugged me full of excitement. I was sure I'd made the right choice. We got married 2 months later. It wasn't a big ceremony, nothing fancy, but for me, it was almost perfect. We wore simple clothes and signed papers at the local office in Udon Thani. I was a bit disappointed that my kids couldn't make it, but I didn't let it ruin my day. Her mum made lunch for the family and a few neighbours came by to wish us well. They gave us fruit baskets and little envelopes with money. I remember feeling proud, like I had a new family. It wasn't like my first wedding back in London, but it felt more honest somehow. We flew back to Bangkok the next day. Life returned to a peaceful rhythm. We'd have our coffee in the morning, have lazy afternoons watching Netflix, and she started helping me improve my Thai. Her daughter Na stayed back in the village with Choi's mum for school, but they visited once a month, and we also went to Udon Thani occasionally. I began to feel like maybe I had a second chance at something good. One night, we sat on the beach in Hua Hin. We were there for a weekend getaway. It was one of those nights where the sea breeze felt just right and the sand was cool beneath your feet. That's when Choi brought it up. "Why pay rent forever?" she said gently. "We could build a home in my village, somewhere simple for the future." At first, I didn't take it seriously, but then she explained that her family had land, her father's land. "We could build something small," she said. Nothing big, just a home where we could spend our later years. She said we didn't need to keep spending money on rent when we could be investing in something of our own. Looking back, this was the moment I should have slowed down, thought things through. But I was all in. I trusted her, and the idea of building something together felt meaningful. I pictured us waking up to roosters crowing, having coffee on the porch, helping in the garden. In my head, it sounded great, so I said yes. The estimate came in at 800,000 baht. Choi said it covered materials and the basic structure. She already had someone in the village who could build it. We keep it modest, she promised. It felt good at the time, like I was planting roots, finally building something with someone instead of always starting over. But it didn't stop there. A few weeks into the project, new costs came up: labor, paint, furniture, plumbing, then appliances. Every time I thought we were done, something else popped up. I was dipping deeper and deeper into my savings. But I kept telling myself it would be worth it. We were building a life. By the time it was all finished, I'd spent close to 1.9 million baht. More than double what we planned. But when I looked at Choi smiling in front of our little home, I thought maybe this was what love looked like. I wish I had asked more questions back then. But I didn't. I just handed over the money and hoped for the best. After we settled into the new house, I figured things would calm down. I was ready to enjoy a slow life, maybe help out in the garden, take care of the house, and just breathe. But that didn't last long. Choi started talking about ideas, business ideas. She said she didn't like sitting around all day, that she wanted to help make money too. I told her we didn't need much. My pension was enough for us to live comfortably, but she said it wasn't about the money. It was about doing something for herself, something that made her feel useful. And I understood that. I wanted her to be happy. Her first idea was selling mushrooms. Not magic mushrooms or anything like that, just the kind you cook with. She said her cousin had done it and made good money. All she needed was 120,000 baht for the shed and spores and a cooling system. I wasn't thrilled, but I gave her the money. I told myself it was a small investment. It didn't go well. The whole setup looked like it was built by an amateur. I told myself I would never eat mushrooms from her. But she gave up on it in less than 2 months. I lost the whole 120k. But Choi didn't seem too upset. She just shrugged and said, "Next time better." A few weeks later, she came back with a new plan. She wanted to raise ducks. "It's easy," she said. "We have space. People buy ducks for food." This time it was 180,000. Enclosure, feed, and getting the first batch of ducks. I hesitated, but I remembered how down she looked when the mushroom thing failed. So I said yes again. For a while, it looked like it might actually work. The ducks were growing, but then a few of them got sick, and other ones escaped. I was furious about the way she handled this idea. "How can you let ducks escape?" Choi laughed it off again. "Next time will be better," she said, patting my hand. I wasn't laughing. I started to feel this tightness in my chest every time she mentioned another next time. My savings were shrinking, and I was pretending I didn't notice. But I did. I was wide awake at night doing the math in my head, over and over. Looking back, I should have told her right then and there that we weren't going to try anything else. But I didn't. I was too soft. I didn't want to argue. I wanted her to stay happy. I thought maybe the next one really would be better, but the next idea was worse. I kept telling myself to draw the line, but I never did. And that's how we ended up with the truck. Choi said we needed one to make our life in the village easier, for buying supplies, transporting goods for the next business, whatever that would be. I told her the motorbike was fine, but she gave me that look, that sweet, convincing look she used whenever she wanted something. She kept pushing it, and I gave in like the fool I am. The truck cost 950k. I tried to tell myself it was a practical purchase, something that would last. But in my gut, I knew we didn't really need it. Still, I handed over the money and the truck was put in Choi's name. She said it made things easier with the paperwork. It was nice, I won't lie. We drove into town more often, went on short trips. For a little while, life felt smooth again. But that didn't last. About 6 months later, I got a call from Choi while I was out. Her voice was shaky. She'd been in an accident. a bad one. She had crashed the truck into a concrete post. I rushed to the scene on my bike, heart pounding. When I got there, the front of the truck was completely smashed in. Choi was fine, just shaken up, but the vehicle looked totaled. "It's okay," I said, trying to stay calm. "We've got insurance." That's when she looked away and mumbled, "I forgot to renew it." I stood there, stunned. I had given her 20k baht a few months earlier to handle the insurance. She said she'd taken care of it. "I used it for something else," she admitted. "People don't always pay insurance here. It's expensive." Here I was again, furious. But I didn't yell. I didn't say a word. I just stared at the wreckage, feeling like the real thing that had crashed was my trust. We got a bit back after selling what was left of the truck for scrap. Nowhere near what I paid for it. But life in the village without a car was hard. Too hard. So I bought another one. This time, I spent 520k on a smaller car. Not a pickup, just something that could get us around. Choi didn't like it. She barely drove it, said it didn't feel the same. I think it just reminded her of her mistake. And me? I started keeping tighter track of everything I spent. I watched my savings shrink from what used to feel like a safety net into something thin and fragile. Every new idea she had, every new plan, made me flinch inside. But I still didn't say no, because I loved her. But at the same time, I was getting stressed about the money. By this point, I should have been numb, but the next blow still hurt more than I expected. A few months after the car incident, Choi's father passed away. It was sudden, but not completely unexpected. He'd been in and out of the hospital for a while, and the funeral followed quickly after. I paid for most of it, about 100k baht. I didn't even hesitate. That felt like the right thing to do. Strangely, the funeral brought us closer for a while. Choi seemed softer again, less focused on business and more present. For a couple of weeks, it almost felt like the beginning, like we were just two people in love. We even talked about going away for a short trip to clear our heads. But then came the land. Her father had left behind 5 ray of farmland, and it went to Choi. She told me it had always been rice land, but she wanted to do something more modern with it, something that could bring in more money. "We could grow chilies," she said, "but only if we invest a little. Maybe get some greenhouses, an irrigation system, better seeds." I stared at her for a long time. After everything we'd tried, I should have walked away right there. But I didn't. She convinced that this time it would really work out. So I gave her the money. About 300k baht. We installed a basic irrigation system, bought equipment, hired some locals. At first, it looked promising. Little green plants poking out of the soil, growing taller every week. We visited the farm every few days, checked on the progress, talked about maybe selling directly to the market in the city. Then one day, we showed up to find it all gone. The irrigation system had been stolen. Pipes, pumps, even the water tanks, just gone. With no water and no way to replace it quickly, the chili plants dried up within a week. Another project, dead in the ground. Choi looked heartbroken, but something inside me just snapped. I didn't yell. I couldn't even be mad at her because it was not her fault. It was too much for me to handle. That night, I sat at the edge of the bed and told her, "No more. I love you, but I can't do this again. No more money for plans, no more investments, nothing. We live with what we have now." She nodded, slowly. "Okay," she said. "I understand." But I don't think she did. Not really. For a few weeks, things felt stable. No business talk, no strange ideas. We were just living again, cooking at home, sitting outside in the evenings, walking to the local market together. And then came the tree. A storm hit the village that night. Strong winds, torrential rain. We woke up early in the morning to find that a huge tree had fallen directly onto the roof of the house. The damage was bad. Real bad. The estimate to repair everything was 300k, and I was out of choices. I stared at the gaping hole in our roof and thought, how did it get to this? We'd barely had the house for 2 years, and already I'd poured almost everything I had into it. The repairs were unavoidable. The rain was leaking straight into the bedroom, soaking the floors, warping the furniture. We couldn't live in it like that, and we couldn't afford to let it sit either. So, like always, I paid another 300k. Gone. That brought my total losses to over 8 million baht, nearly £200,000. I had £40,000 left in savings and an income that could still keep me going. But I wasn't the same person anymore. Every time I opened my banking app, my stomach turned. Every time I saw Choi smile, I felt this heaviness in my chest, like I'd paid for that smile one too many times. We started fighting more. About small things mostly, but the real fight was unspoken. I resented her, and she knew it. One night I said what had been burning inside me for months. Before you met me, you lived in a shack with nothing. How did you expect to start a business or build a house? I gave you everything, and all of it's gone. She shot back. I'm smart. I just didn't have money before. That's the only reason things didn't work. No, I said. The reason things didn't work is because you never stopped to learn. You just kept trying and failing, and I kept paying. When will you finally learn? She didn't like that. She stopped talking for a long time. Then she looked at me and said something that still rings in my ears. I have another idea, but I won't even ask you this time, because you don't believe in me. I should have ended it there. I should have packed my bags and walked away. But instead, I did the one thing I swore I wouldn't. I asked her what the idea was. A tractor, she said. Just 500,000. Everyone needs tractors. We can rent it out. That was it. I told her I was done. I'm leaving. I want a divorce. You've taken everything from me, and now you just want to keep going. At first, she didn't say anything. She didn't cry. Then, after a while, she said, "Fine. But you have to pay me if you want me to sign." Sure, one more time to end it all. I paid her 30k once everything was said and done. I left after everything was done and moved to a small room in Chiang Rai. My savings were low, but I still had my pension. It was enough to live modestly. Chiang Rai was the perfect place. I was quiet and cheap. Looking back, I see it now. We were never building a life together. I was just building her escape from poverty, and I paid for it, brick by brick. I thought I'd found love in Thailand, but what I really found was the price of ignoring red flags and mistaking need for affection. It cost me everything. Life up in Chiang Rai is beautiful, and I have found my routines again. I still feel miserable about the whole situation, and it certainly will take some time to heal. Whenever a situation occurs where you're asked for money or investment, think twice. Bob. Wow, thanks Bob for sending in your story. It was rather painful to read, but glad that you shared it to help others. If you have a story of your own to share, send me a message. My email is in the description. Subscribe to the channel for more stories, and for an even crazier story, click the video on your screen right now.